Funny thing about warnings, people don't really hear them the first time, or the second, or even the third. They always need to be shaken a little, broken a little, before they finally listen. Life doesn't whisper because it enjoys being ignored. It repeats itself because you're stubborn. You've been seeing the signs, haven't you? The same message coming back through different faces, different moments, different coincidences. It's not madness, it's a pattern. The same words echoing through the cracks of your days, trying to get your attention before something gives. You ever notice how life doesn't stop trying to tell you the same thing over and over again? The same signs, the same patterns, the same gut feeling that creeps up when you're about to make the same mistake again. It's almost poetic, like some invisible hand keeps nudging you, whispering, "Didn't we already go through this?" But you shrug it off, pretend it's nothing, call it coincidence, and walk right back into the same fire that burned you before. And then, when everything falls apart again, you act surprised, as if the signs weren't screaming all along. See, the signs don't change. They don't need to. You do. The message has been the same since the beginning. It's you who keeps twisting it to fit your comfort. Life's not cruel. It's consistent. It keeps sending the same signals until you finally grow enough to understand them. That's the joke. Really. You keep praying for answers that were already given to you 5 times over. You want something new, something different. But how can anything new arrive if you keep ignoring what's already been said? People think signs are supposed to be loud, a miracle, a voice from the clouds, a flash of something divine. But no, they're quiet, unsettlingly quiet. They show up in moments you dismiss. The wrong crowd that suddenly feels right, the opportunity that looks perfect but makes your stomach twist, the same argument, repeating with different faces. Every sign is a mirror, reflecting what you refuse to change. And the more you run from it, the closer it gets, until it corners you. That's when you call it fate. But it wasn't fate. It was a warning you ignored long enough to become reality. Change doesn't happen when you want it to. It happens when you finally listen. But listening requires humility, and that's the one thing people hate more than pain. They'd rather bleed in familiar chaos than heal in unfamiliar silence. They'd rather keep repeating history than admit they were wrong. That's why the signs don't stop. They don't care about your pride. They care about your evolution. And if you won't choose to change, life will force it out of you. Slowly, painfully, deliberately. It's funny, though, how clear things become after the damage is done. Once the smoke settles, you look back and realize it was all there. The warnings, the red flags, the uneasy feeling you brushed off. You start to see the pattern like a movie you've already watched a dozen times. The same ending, the same heartbreak, the same regret. And you swear you'll never ignore it again. But then something shiny appears, and there you go, pressing play on the same scene like you forgot the ending. The truth is, deep down, you always know. You know when something's off. You know when you're forcing something That's not meant for you. You feel it in your chest, that little voice saying, this isn't it. But you drown it out with logic, with excuses, with noise. You convince yourself you can make it work, that maybe this time it'll be different. That's the trap. The message doesn't change just because you're tired of hearing it. It only grows louder until you either listen or break. Some people call it intuition. Some call it divine timing. Doesn't matter what name you give it. The truth remains the same. You don't escape the message. You meet it again and again until you learn. Every failure, every loss, every heartbreak, it's not random. It's repetition. Life repeating the same question until you finally answer it correctly. And when you do, the signs stop, not because they disappear, but because you've finally aligned with what they were trying to tell you all along. The reason most people feel stuck isn't because they don't have options. It's because they keep ignoring the one thing that would set them free. Change. Change is uncomfortable. It demands honesty. It forces you to admit that you've been part of your own destruction. But once you do that, once you accept that the signs weren't lies, that the warnings weren't paranoia, you begin to see everything differently. Suddenly, the silence makes sense. The delays feel necessary. The detours look like protection. You see, growth doesn't come from getting what you want. It comes from losing what you never needed. It comes from realizing that not every door is meant to open. Not every person is meant to stay, and not every plan deserves to survive. The signs aren't there to scare you. They're there to save you, to keep you from chasing what would destroy you if you caught it. But until you learn to see them for what they are, they'll keep coming. Louder, sharper, closer. The universe isn't repeating itself because it enjoys watching you suffer. It's repeating because you're still standing in the same place, expecting a different result. Every time you ignore what feels wrong, you delay what could be right. Every time you justify what hurts you, you teach life that you're not ready to move forward, and so it waits, patiently, quietly, sending the same signs again and again, hoping that this time, maybe this time, you'll finally pay attention. Repetition is never random. It's the universe's favorite trick, saying the same thing over and over again until you finally stop pretending you don't understand. You think you're stuck, but you're not. You're looping. The same situations, the same faces, the same lessons dressed in different disguises. It's not coincidence. It's correction. Life is trying to fix something you refuse to face. It's trying to get your attention in the only way you'll listen. Through pain, through loss, through déjà vu. And you call it bad luck, but it's really a mirror, showing you what happens when you keep ignoring the obvious. You've heard that voice before. That whisper that tells you, don't go there. Don't trust that. Don't do it again. But you silence it, convince yourself it's fear, not wisdom. You go ahead anyway, and when it falls apart, you act surprised. But deep down you knew. You always knew. The pattern didn't betray you. You betrayed your own knowing. That's why it keeps repeating. Because the lesson doesn't change until you do. The same energy, the same choices, the same results. That's how life works. It's patient. It'll let you run in circles for years, if you want to, until the dizziness makes you stop and finally see the truth. You want something new, something better, something higher. But you won't release what's old. You keep holding on to the same type of people, the same destructive habits, the same tired excuses. You can't heal in the same environment that broke you, but you keep trying, as if this time will be different. That's the illusion. Thinking you can fix the past by repeating it. You can't rewrite the story by reading the same chapter. You have to close the book. But humans love comfort more than clarity, even when that comfort is killing them. The funny thing is, repetition doesn't start as punishment. It starts as a warning, a gentle tap on the shoulder, a feeling that something's off, but you ignore it, so the warning gets louder. A small inconvenience, a closed door, a person who suddenly changes. You still don't listen. Then it becomes chaos, an accident, a breakdown, an ending you didn't see coming. But you did. The pattern was there the whole time. You just refused to look at it. And so, life stops asking politely. It starts tearing things down until you can't avoid the message anymore. People think life is cruel when it repeats the same pain. But it's not cruelty. It's mercy. Because repetition is a second chance in disguise. It's life saying, here we go again, but this time do it differently. It's not trying to hurt you. It's trying to wake you up. But most people don't want to wake up. They want to dream with their eyes open. They want comfort with purpose, growth without change, answers without honesty. And so the cycle continues. The same mistake, different setting. The same heartbreak, different name. The same fire, different flame. You ever wonder why some people never move forward? Why, no matter how much time passes, they keep ending up in the same kind of pain? It's because they mistake familiarity for fate. They think just because something feels known, it must be meant. But familiarity isn't destiny. It's memory. It's the past, dressed up and pretending to be the present. And if you don't break it, it becomes your future. Life won't send you new blessings if you keep clinging to old lessons. It's like trying to fill a broken cup. It doesn't matter how much you pour, it will always leak. There's a pattern in your pain. Every time you ignore your instincts, you suffer. Every time you settle for less, you lose a piece of yourself. Every time you choose easy over right, you end up back where you started. You call it bad timing, wrong people, bad luck. But it's none of those things. It's you. It's your refusal to listen when the message is whispered, so it has to be screamed. Repetition is the sound of grace running out of patience. It's not trying to destroy you. It's trying to rebuild you. But to rebuild, it has to first show you what you keep breaking. The lesson won't evolve until you do. You can pray, manifest, cry, scream all you want, but until you act differently, nothing changes. Life doesn't respond to words. It responds to alignment. You say you want peace, but you keep walking into war zones. You say you want love, but you keep opening the door to chaos. You say you want truth, but you keep running back to lies that comfort you. The pattern doesn't break because it's stubborn. It breaks when you stop being. You see, the message isn't repeating to punish you. It's repeating because you haven't heard it yet. You've read it, seen it, even felt it, but you haven't heard it. There's a difference. Hearing means changing. It means saying, enough. It means choosing differently, even when it's hard, even when it's lonely, even when it hurts. That's the moment everything shifts. That's when the pattern finally ends. But until then, life will keep circling back, tapping on your shoulder, whispering the same truth again and again, waiting for the moment you finally stop pretending you don't understand. It always starts small, doesn't it? A feeling, a thought, a little discomfort in your gut that whispers, "This isn't right," but you ignore it. You call it overthinking. You tell yourself you're being paranoid. You drown it with noise, distractions, people, anything that keeps you from listening. And then, when everything collapses, when the pain finally hits, you say, "I didn't see it coming." But deep down, you did. You just didn't want to face it. Ignoring the message doesn't erase it. It just makes the lesson louder. That's the thing about life. It doesn't get tired. It doesn't stop trying to wake you up. You can pretend not to notice, but it notices you. Every time you walk away from what you know is wrong, it watches. Every time you go back to what broke you, it whispers, "Not again." And every time you ignore it, the voice gets sharper, louder, more inconvenient, until it finally shows up in a way you can't escape. Through loss, through heartbreak, through chaos that rips away your comfort and forces you to pay attention. People think pain is punishment, but it's not. Pain is language. It's how truth gets through when you won't listen any other way. You ignore the whispers, so life starts shouting. You ignore the signs, so life starts shaking. The more you resist, the more violent the message becomes. It's not trying to hurt you. It's trying to get your attention. You can't keep asking for peace while clinging to the very things that destroy it. That's why the lesson gets louder, because you're still not listening. You ever notice how the same problems keep finding you? Different people, same endings. Different paths, same dead ends. It's not bad luck. It's repetition by design. Because if you won't learn through reflection, you'll learn through experience. Life will keep placing the same kind of storm in front of you until you finally stop running from the rain and start asking why you're always standing in the same storm. Every ignored warning becomes a future consequence. Every avoided truth turns into a harder lesson. That's the price of pretending not to know what you already do. Silence is never empty. It's full of messages you keep avoiding. That uneasy feeling, that tension you try to drown, that's life speaking. But people fear silence because it forces them to confront what they've been hiding. So they fill it with noise, music, chatter screens, anything to escape their own awareness. But you can't mute the truth forever. It just waits, patiently. It doesn't fade. it festers. And when it finally bursts, it's never subtle. It comes crashing down, leaving you wondering why it had to be so painful. But it didn't have to be. You made it that way by ignoring what was meant to guide you. You see, every warning ignored becomes a storm that didn't have to happen. Every gut feeling dismissed becomes a regret that didn't need to exist. The universe doesn't punish, it teaches. And when you refuse to listen gently, it teaches brutally. The lessons get heavier, the losses get deeper, and suddenly, you start realizing how much lighter it would have been if you had just stopped and paid attention the first time. But humans are stubborn. They only learn the value of peace after chaos has chewed them apart. They only learn the importance of listening after silence has been taken from them. There's a pattern in how pain arrives. First, it whispers. Then it nudges. Then it breaks everything. That's the progression of ignored truth. And every time you dismiss it, you sign up for a bigger lesson. People love to say, everything happens for a reason, but they rarely ask what the reason actually is. Maybe the reason isn't mysterious at all. Maybe the reason is you didn't listen the first time, or the second, or the third. Maybe the reason is that your comfort mattered more than your growth, until growth decided it was done waiting. The truth never disappears. It just raises its volume. It'll follow you through every choice, every failure, every restless night, whispering what you already know, but refuse to accept. And the longer you ignore it, the more expensive it becomes. Because every delay adds weight to the lesson. What could have been a quiet realization turns into a collapse. What could have been a simple shift turns into a full breakdown. That's not life being cruel. That's life matching your level of resistance. You want the pain to stop, but you don't want to change what's causing it. You want peace without sacrifice, clarity without confrontation, freedom without discipline. But that's not how it works. The moment you start listening, the real kind of listening, not the fake, I'll do better next time, kind, the lesson softens. Because the message was never the problem. It was your denial that made it hurt so much. Every ignored message becomes a story of regret later. The signs were there. The voice was there. The feeling was there. And when it all falls apart, you'll remember them. The warnings, the patterns, the moments where you knew. You'll wish you had listened when the message was still gentle. Because the truth never stops coming. It just changes its tone. From a whisper to a push to a fall. And the longer you resist, the louder it gets, until the only thing left to do is finally listen. People love to act like they're waiting for a sign, some divine proof that it's time to move, time to change, time to believe. But when the signs actually come, they call them coincidences. Isn't that funny? You ask for guidance, and when it arrives, you dismiss it because it doesn't fit your logic. You think God only speaks in grand gestures, in burning bushes and thunderous voices, but he's been whispering all along, in the timing, in the silence, in the people who left, in the doors that slammed shut. You think rejection is bad luck, but it's really direction. You think loss means punishment, but it's actually protection. The problem isn't that you don't get signs. The problem is that you expect them to look the way you want. The truth is, the signs were never meant to be comfortable. They're meant to interrupt you. They're supposed to make you uneasy, force you to stop and pay attention. But you keep running from the discomfort, mistaking peace for convenience. You don't realize that real peace isn't the absence of problems. It's the presence of clarity. And clarity doesn't come without chaos, first shaking the fake out of you. That's why everything seems to fall apart right before it all makes sense. You think you're losing control, but you're actually being redirected toward what's real. There's something poetic about how the universe works. It doesn't shout, it arranges, it moves people like chess pieces, sets up moments that seem random but connect perfectly later. You meet someone by accident. You hear a phrase that hits you harder than it should. You see the same number again and again, and you brush it off. But those things aren't random. They're signals. Patterns repeating until you can't deny them anymore. It's like the world is trying to get your attention before the moment passes. Because once it does, you can't rewind it. You can only wish you had paid attention when it mattered. You think you're waiting for a miracle, but sometimes the miracle is the realization itself. The moment you see that things have been aligning, moving, preparing, long before you noticed. You think faith is about waiting for everything to make sense, but real faith is moving even when it doesn't. It's walking toward something you can't explain, but can't ignore either. That's why signs don't scream. They stir. They make you feel something that logic can't dissect. They make you restless in a life that once felt fine. And that restlessness isn't madness. It's movement. It's the signal that what you've been praying for is already in motion. But you're still standing still. You keep asking for confirmation, but you've already been given 5. The voice inside you that won't quiet down. The opportunities that keep resurfacing. The feeling that something's about to shift. That's not random. That's a warning dressed as intuition. But you silence it because it doesn't match your timing. You wanted the answer to look like comfort. You wanted it to feel easy. But purpose never arrives wrapped in ease. It comes dressed as uncertainty, as disruption, as the quiet voice that says, now. And the more you delay, the more uncomfortable it becomes, until you're forced to move just to stop the ache. The signs don't always show up in the light. Sometimes they show up in the dark. In the heartbreak, in the failure, in the quiet after chaos. When you've lost everything you thought you needed, and somehow you're still breathing. That's a sign too. It's proof that what's ahead of you is stronger than what's behind you. It's proof that something greater is pulling you forward, even when you don't see the path. You call it coincidence, but it's orchestration. You call it confusion, but it's construction. The pieces don't make sense yet, because you're standing too close to the puzzle. People think waiting for a sign is holy, but it's not faith. It's hesitation. Faith doesn't wait for proof. It acts on the whisper that says, go now. Call them. Leave that place. Start over. You don't need a lightning strike to know when it's time. You already know. You just keep hoping the truth will become more comfortable. But it won't. It's supposed to unsettle you. That's how it breaks you free from what you've outgrown. The longer you delay, the louder the signs get. Until eventually, they're not signs anymore. They're consequences. You see, signs aren't gifts. They're warnings. They're mercy before the storm. They're the gentle tap before the shake. And if you don't move when you're meant to, life will move you anyway. Not out of cruelty, but out of necessity. Because what's meant for you can't stay waiting forever. You either align with it willingly, or you get torn away from what's holding you back. You think you're losing, but really you're being positioned. You think you're falling apart, but you're being reshaped. The signs have been there all along. You just stopped believing they meant something. But they do. Every coincidence, every delay, every silence, every no, they all carry a message. It's time. And maybe, just maybe, this is the moment you finally stop looking for more proof and start realizing you've already been told. You know what's fascinating? How easy it is to distract people from the truth. You don't need force. You don't need chains. Just noise. Endless. Glittering, screaming noise. The world has mastered the art of keeping you busy. It doesn't even have to take away your dreams. It just has to keep you scrolling, chasing, comparing, wanting. That's the trick. Give you enough motion to feel alive, but never enough direction to actually live. They don't have to silence you if they can keep you entertained. And that's the plan, isn't it? Keep your eyes wide open but never seeing, your hands full but your heart empty. You've noticed it, haven't you? How every time you get close to clarity, something comes along to pull you away. A new distraction. A new trend. A new problem that doesn't matter, but feels urgent enough to steal your focus. They know your weakness. It's not ignorance, it's attention. You give it too freely, and to the wrong things. You worship at the altar of distraction, then wonder why you can't feel peace. Every beep, every ping, every headline is a hook in your mind, pulling you further from the truth sitting right in front of you. They say knowledge is power, but what they don't tell you is, too much noise kills understanding. You're drowning in information, but starving for meaning. You think you're learning because you're consuming, but you're not digesting anything real. You're being fed just enough to feel full, but not enough to wake up. That's how they win. Not through control, but through confusion. They make sure you never stop long enough to ask, why am I doing this? Because once you ask that, once you see the strings, the illusion breaks. It's funny, isn't it? How people will spend hours studying strangers' lives, but never spend 5 minutes studying their own thoughts. You chase what they sell: success, fame, beauty, validation. And every chase leaves you emptier than before. You don't even realize that the system isn't broken. It's working exactly as designed. It rewards your distractions, punishes your awareness, and praises your conformity. You think you're choosing, but your choices were designed before you even made them. You think you're free because no one's holding you down, but your cage is invisible, and you built it yourself with your attention. The plan is simply keep you numb, keep you busy, keep you consuming. They sell dreams like candy, and you buy them because the truth tastes bitter. You've been programmed to mistake comfort for happiness, attention for love, noise for meaning. You call it progress, but it's decay dressed in neon. You think you're moving forward, but you're walking in circles, faster and faster, until the spinning feels like purpose. And every time that voice inside whispers that something feels off, you silence it with another distraction. Another song, another video, another like. You'd rather drown in noise than face the quiet, because silence exposes everything you've been avoiding. They don't even need to hide the truth anymore. It's right there, hiding behind your own reflection. You don't see it, but you're too busy pretending you already have it all figured out. You've traded awareness for aesthetics, depth for display. You live to be seen instead of to see. And while you're performing for a world that doesn't care, the moments that matter slip through your fingers like dust. That's the real tragedy. Not that you're being deceived, but that you're willingly deceiving yourself. You know it's hollow, but you keep playing along because it's easier than waking up. There's a reason silence feels uncomfortable. It's honest. It doesn't entertain you. It doesn't flatter you. It confronts you. It shows you everything the noise was hiding. And that's why they fear silence. Because if you stop moving, if you stop scrolling, if you stop pretending for just a moment, you'll start to FC. You'll see how the distractions were never random. They were placed there to keep you from remembering who you really are. Because once you remember, once you reclaim your focus, you become dangerous. You see, the wealthy man's plan doesn't require your obedience. It only requires your attention. As long as you keep giving it away, he wins. As long as you keep chasing what doesn't matter, you'll never question who benefits from your exhaustion. You think your distractions are harmless, but every second you give them is a piece of your power you'll never get back. They say time is money, but that's not true. Time is life, and you're spending it on things that don't even know your name. The scariest part, most people will never realize it. They'll defend their distractions like treasures, fight for their cages like freedoms. They'll laugh at the truth because it's too heavy to carry, too inconvenient to believe. But the signs are all around you. The exhaustion, the emptiness, the quiet ache you feel even when you have it all. That's not depression. It's awareness trying to wake you up. The question is, how long can you ignore it before it's too loud to silence? Look at you. Confused, aren't you? Trying to make sense of something the world swears shouldn't make sense. They say love has rules, limits, a proper timeline, as if hearts come with expiration dates or user manuals. They see an age gap and suddenly everyone becomes a philosopher, a judge, a moral police squad. Funny how people who can't manage their own emotions think they're qualified to measure someone else's love eye, timelines and expectations. Humanity's favorite cage. They love to pretend connection follows some neat little recipe. Same age, same phase, same chapter, same path. They cling to their precious rules like children clutching a broken toy, terrified someone might show them a different way. But connection, real connection, it has never once cared about the clock. It arrives when it wants, not when the world says it should. It chooses souls, not schedules. And oh, isn't that what drives everyone mad? That two people can find each other outside the carefully drawn lines. And suddenly every busybody with nothing extraordinary in their own life becomes an expert on your funny thing. People talk about maturity like it's welded to a birth year. They think age magically grants wisdom, experience guarantees depth, and youth automatically means naivety. Yet look around. You'll see old minds trapped in young bodies, and youthful sparks glowing in those with more years behind them than ahead. Time may age the body, but it doesn't decide the soul's temperature. Some hearts stay burning, no matter how many winters pass. Some minds stay curious long after society expects them to quiet down and shrink into routine. And sometimes, that kind of flame attracts someone who isn't the same age, but recognizes the heat and, oh, how shocked the world becomes. This isn't normal. They say that as if normality has ever birthed greatness. The same people who preach, be yourself, panic when you actually do it. They talk about true love, soulmates, destinies, signs, until those signs point somewhere unconventional. Then suddenly, they call it strange, risky, wrong. The truth. They only support love when it fits their little checklist. Anything outside it forces them to confront the limits of their own imagination, but connection isn't a math problem. It's chemistry. It's instinct. It's two minds colliding at just the right moment. Two spirits sensing because the universe, or fate or chaos, or whatever you want to call it, decided to have a little fun. You don't choose when or how or who. You simply feel it. And if you're brave enough, you honor it. Meanwhile, the critics, they drown in their own fear, terrified that someone lived boldly where they only followed rules age, gap love. Two consenting adults choosing each other isn't the scandal they think it is. It's the mirror, the reflection that asks, have you ever felt something real enough to defy expectation? Most haven't. Most trade passion for permission. They romance approval, not people. They marry timing, not love. They hide behind society like it's a safety net, never realizing it's a cage. And when they see someone break out of that cage, oh, it rattles them. Because freedom always offends the imprisoned. Think about it. Why is it that when two people fit each other's minds, hearts, intentions, dreams, suddenly strangers want proof, justification, explanation, as if love needs a license stamped by public opinion? As if the world isn't full of relationships built on convenience, boredom, and fear disguised as stability. They don't question those. They don't interrogate the lukewarm, the predictable, the passionless. But they swarm like hornets the moment something genuine appears. Where they didn't expect it, you know what that tells you. They aren't protecting morality. They're protecting mediocrity. Because when love dares to step outside the lines, it exposes how small their world truly is. So here you are, standing where many fear to stand, choosing connection over convention, meaning over mathematics. And the world stares, scratching its head, whispering, judging, hoping you'll break, because if you thrive, if your bond grows, if your love stands strong, then their excuses collapse, their comfort shatters, their narrative crumbles, and oh, people hate when the truth ruins their favorite lies. They hate being reminded that real connection doesn't knock politely and wait for permission. It kicks the door, walks in, and sits down with a smirk. You didn't choose the timing. You didn't choose the difference. You chose the Ev person. And that frightens them. Because deep down, they know the only thing separating you from them isn't age, or timing, or fate, it's courage. The courage to feel instead of conform. The courage to love instead of obey. The courage to say, my heart decides, not the calendar, not the crowd. So here we are again, in this little theater of emotions, where everyone pretends to be wise, moral, sensible. They talk like they've figured out the universe, while they can't even figure out their own hearts. Funny thing, isn't it? Society screams. Age matters. But look a little closer and you'll see. What they really mean is, we're afraid of anything that doesn't fit neatly into our tiny little boxes. They love rules because rules make them feel safe, comfortable, predictable, like fragile children clinging to their toys in the dark. But love was never meant for cages. It doesn't check IDs. It doesn't count candles on a cake. It doesn't take attendance in the classroom of approval. It simply happens. Wild, unplanned, inconvenient for the world, but undeniable to the soul. You think this person looked at you and measured years. You think they stood there calculating the gap, weighing judgment like some accountant of the heart. No. They looked at you and saw something rare. Someone who lit a part of them they thought was gone. Someone who made them feel alive again. You don't throw that away because society wrinkles its nose. You don't walk from someone who loves you with depth just because others love with calendars and clocks. They didn't choose you out of rebellion, but out of recognition. You were not a risk. You were a revelation. And age. Well, that was just a number that scared everyone else, not them. They didn't fear what the world whispered. They feared a life where you never existed in theirs. Imagine that, someone choosing the chaos of love over the comfort of conformity. Terrifying, isn't it? Because it means love is still dangerous, wild, real. And I know, your mind plays tricks. What if they regret it later? What if I'm not enough? What if they only think they love me? That ugly little voice whispers doubt like poison. But tell me this, when has fear ever led anyone to something worth remembering? The safe path is paved with regrets, and the bold one, well, that's where legends are born. They weren't scared of what people might say. They weren't scared of time. They were scared of missing the chance to feel something true in a world drowning in fake emotions and staged affection. They saw the emptiness of normal love, the kind that looks perfect on paper but dies quietly in routine. They wanted fire, not lukewarm comfort. They chose connection over convention, heart over habit. And the world will gossip, of course. They always do. People hate what they don't understand. They envy those who dare to feel deeply, because deep feeling requires courage. A currency most don't have. They'll laugh, criticize, whisper behind backs like petty little clowns, pretending they sit on thrones of judgment. But while they entertain themselves with opinions, someone out there chose you when they could have chosen ordinary. Someone said, "I don't care who disapproves. This is my heart, my life, my choice." And choices like that aren't weak. They're not accidents. They're acts of bravery disguised as love. Age difference. The world panics about years because it doesn't understand souls. A soul doesn't age. A heart doesn't wrinkle. Passion doesn't follow the calendar. What scares them isn't age, it's authenticity. Because when someone loves you like that, unapologetically, fiercely, deliberately, it exposes how shallow most connections really are. It shows them what they're missing. And nothing terrifies people more than a mirror that reflects the truth they avoid. So don't question why they love you. Don't shrink yourself to fit the world's tiny expectations. Don't let fear cheapen something rare. They aren't there because they want your youth or your energy or your image. They are there because somewhere, somehow, you awakened a part of them time had tried to bury. They didn't fear your age. They feared a life untouched by what you made them feel. And that kind of love doesn't bow to numbers or rules or public opinion. It stands, quiet, certain, untamed. Isn't it amusing how quickly people turn into experts on things they've never felt? They look at your connection, tilt their heads like confused little birds, and suddenly they've got opinions, theories, warnings. Oh, they love warnings. It won't last. It isn't right. You're being manipulated. They whisper like they're prophets, but really they're just scared. Scared of what you ask, of you, of them. No. Scared of the one thing they hope no one sees. How empty their own lives feel in comparison. You have something they don't understand, and instead of learning, they hide behind criticism. Classic human behavior. Fear disguised as moral wisdom. They can't comprehend a bond that doesn't fit their formula, same age, same stage, same safe little storyline. They want love to be simple, neat, predictable like a cheap romance script with no plot twists. But you too, you broke the script. You didn't follow the lines society handed out. You improvised. You felt something real in a world drowning in filters, ego, and emotional fast food. That terrifies them. Real things always do. Fake things they understand. Fake confidence, fake relationships, fake loyalty. But when they see a connection, that stretches across the borders of age and expectation, they suddenly panic. Like someone turned on a light in a room they preferred dark. People don't attack what they don't care about. They attack what makes them uncomfortable. Your bond unsettles them because it reminds them of their own limitations, their own timid choices, their own love that was more about convenience than conviction. They don't see your story. They see their regrets reflected in it. They hate that you dared to feel something they never found the courage to. So they mask their envy with judgment, hoping you'll doubt what they can't understand. Hoping you'll crumble so they can breathe easy again, safe inside their tiny cage of normal. And let's talk about that word, normal. What a strange little cage it is. People cling to it like a child clutching a blanket, terrified of stepping outside. But who set that standard? Who decided love has a schedule? Who carved into stone the idea that hearts must be the same age to beat in sync? No one. It's all invented. An illusion, repeated so often that people forgot to question it. And now someone like you comes along, daring to break the spell, daring to follow emotion instead of tradition, and they lose their minds. Because deep down, they suspect you might be right. And nothing scares a crowd more than someone who proves the rules were never real. They'll say they're concerned for you. Isn't that adorable? People who can't manage their own happiness suddenly become guardians of yours. They'll call it advice, but it's fear preaching through borrowed wisdom. They fear complexity. They fear depth. They fear love that demands courage. They fear that maybe, just maybe, the real thing looks less like their expectations and more like your messy, beautiful, unexpected connection. They fear being proven small. So they choose mockery instead of understanding. They choose doubt over curiosity. They choose distance over vulnerability. Easier to judge than feel, isn't it? Let them talk. Let them analyze, gossip, wrinkle their brows in confusion. You don't owe them comprehension. Your bond isn't a public exhibit for their comfort. It's a rebellion against shallow hearts and frightened minds. And rebellion always frightens the obedient. They don't need to understand it. They never will. Because love like this isn't for everyone. Only for those bold enough to listen to their heart instead of the crowd. And crowds, well, crowds never lead, they only follow. But you didn't follow. You chose a path they didn't dare step on. The kind carved by feeling, not approval. Let them fear it. Fear is just a sign that you're walking where only a rare few ever go. Funny thing about time, people treat it like an enemy. Like a thief sneaking around stealing beauty, passion fire. They panic as clocks move, terrified of wrinkles, birthdays, and whatever comes after, youth. They think love expires like milk in a fridge. They believe feelings fade because they've only ever seen the cheap kind. The kind built on excitement, not depth. But when love is real, time doesn't erode it. Time tests it, refines it, sharpens the edges until all that remains is truth. Real love doesn't wear down. It gets harder, stronger, more dangerous to the world that never believed in it. Most people only know love that starts loud and dies quietly. Infatuation, hormones, convenience, fireworks that sparkle for a second, then turn to smoke. They mistake noise for depth. They think the first rush is the whole story. So when they see two souls holding on to each other through years, through doubts, through whispers, through storms, they panic. How is it still alive? They wonder. Why didn't time kill it like it killed mine? Because theirs wasn't love. It was a distraction, a band-aid, a temporary performance wrapped in pretty lies. But yours was carved with patience and pain and choice. And that's the secret no one likes to admit. Real love isn't a spark, it's a forge. Time doesn't silence it. Time forces you to prove it. And oh, that proof makes people uncomfortable. They love beginnings because beginnings are easy. Everyone looks perfect at the start. Everyone promises forever when tomorrow hasn't arrived yet. But when time enters the room, masks fall off. You see who stands steady and who runs, who grows and who rots, who fights and who folds. If love survives that, it becomes something frightening, too real, too powerful, too rare for casual hearts to comprehend. People think age difference weakens love. They say one will outgrow, one will fall behind, one will change faster. But that's the thing. Everyone changes. No two humans stay aligned by accident. Love isn't about matching ages. It's about choosing each other again and again, even as life reshapes you both. Time demands growth, and real love grows with it. Where others drift apart, you too adapt. Where others decay, you sharpen. What they call a gap is your advantage. One brings wisdom, one brings fire, both bring devotion. Instead of two clocks ticking in sync, you are two rhythms that learn to dance. They say time kills passion. They say age cools desire. They say love fades like an old photograph in a dusty drawer. But have you noticed? People who say that are always the ones who gave up first. They're the ones who settled. They're the ones who mistook routine for love and boredom for peace. Their stories died, so they assume yours will too. Misery loves company, but so does mediocrity. They expect your flame to dim, because theirs never burned in the first place. Yet here you stand, still drawn, still connected, still unable to let go even when logic and fear tried to pry your fingers apart. Time only threatens relationships built on illusion. But when love is forged in truth, truth that scares you, truth that breaks you, truth that rebuilds you, time becomes your ally. It gives you layers, depth, a history stitched with moments both beautiful and brutal. Time makes secrets, inside jokes, scars that belong to only two people in the whole world. It makes longing deeper, trust heavier, silence more comfortable than most people's conversations. It sharpens love into something unbreakable, not because it's perfect, but because it survived. So let them worry about clocks. Let them fear candles on cakes and numbers on screens. They measure time in years. You measure it in memories. They track aging. You track evolution. They count days. You count reasons you still choose each other. Time didn't weaken you. It stripped everything false away and left only what was real. And what's real, well, That's what terrifies them most, because they see what you have and realize time never betrayed them. They simply never had anything strong enough to survive it. Have you ever noticed how people suddenly become experts the moment they don't like something you have? They can't understand your connection, so they call it strange. They can't grasp your loyalty, so they label it obsession. They can't swallow the depth of your bond, so they twist it into a scandal. It's hilarious in a tragic way. The world hates what it can't categorize, fears what it can't control, mocks what it secretly envies. And your love. Oh, it doesn't fit in any of their little boxes. It doesn't follow their timelines, their rules, their logic. So of course they fear it. They fear it because it exposes their lack. They fear it because it reminds them they've never felt anything powerful enough to defy judgment, distance, whispers, doubt. Time itself. People prefer things that are easy to explain. Same age, same background, same story, same expectations. They love neat symmetry. Safe, predictable, small. But you chose a path that wasn't symmetrical, wasn't predictable, wasn't safe. You chose someone not because the world clapped for you, but because your soul recognized something it couldn't walk away from. And that scares them. Not you, them. They fear what your love represents freedom. The freedom to choose heart over crowd, intuition over approval, destiny over comfort. You didn't bend to the script they worship, and now their fragile beliefs rattle like cheap glass in a storm. They'll say you're confused. They'll say you're misguided. They'll say you'll regret it. Not because they care, but because your conviction threatens their excuses. Your courage exposes their cowardice. Your loyalty reveals their patterns of quitting. They've only known love that fits conditions, quotas, social perks. They've traded affection like currency, choosing partners like outfits, based on trend, not truth. So, when they see two souls holding on to each other despite every reason to walk away, it shakes something inside them. It forces them to confront a thought they've buried. Maybe they never really loved at all. They don't fear the age difference. They fear the strength that came with it. They fear the maturity that built understanding instead of insecurity. They fear the wisdom that softened pride instead of feeding ego. They fear that someone older saw your worth long, before someone your age was wise enough to recognize it. They fear that someone younger gave a fire and purity that someone older had forgotten how to feel. They don't fear the years. They fear the bond that outgrew them. So they gossip, they whisper, they laugh in groups, because alone they'd have to face the hollowness in their own chests. They warn you about heartbreak, while hiding their own heartbreak inside forced smiles and convenient relationships. They pretend to mock you while secretly imagining what it feels like to be chosen with that kind of intensity. Their fear wears many masks: judgment, sarcasm, criticism. But beneath them all beats the same truth. They wish they had something they believed in as fiercely as you believe in each other. Let them talk. Let them assume, predict, judge. Desperately try to convince themselves that your love is doomed simply because theirs never survived long enough to be tested. Let them misunderstand. Understanding was never their role. They weren't meant to feel it, only to witness it. Some people are placed in the audience so they can watch what courage looks like. Your connection threatens their comfort zones because it defies logic, expectations, and timelines. And anything that defies norms becomes a target for small minds. They fear you because you didn't choose love that made sense. You chose love that made you alive. And the irony, the louder they object, the more it proves how deeply your connection unnerves them. If it was weak, they wouldn't care. If it was temporary, they'd just wait it out. But they feel it, the weight of it, the truth of it, the inevitability of it. People don't fight what doesn't matter. They fight what threatens their illusion of how life is supposed to go. You didn't follow their map. You burned it and made your own path. And nothing scares the world more than someone who refuses to ask permission to feel something real